So Mitch Robinson, what the hell exactly is he? After averaging 8.3 points and 8.1 rebounds a game last season on 65% shooting, he was trending in the right direction regarding better footwork, better discipline, even though some parts are still lacking, but then he got injured. And the question marks arose. Is he going to be worth whatever contract some of these top centers are getting in the league? Obviously, guys like Robert Williams, you wouldn't consider him top centers in the league, but a guy like Mitch Robinson who's better than him may garner more. Is he going to become the next Amir Johnson, this athletic center that keeps getting paid and everybody's looking for him to make that breakthrough, convert his athleticism into proficiency on the court? Can he become the next Rudy Gobert? We don't know exactly what it is. So in the next slide or the next part of this, I'm going to break down the things I think Mitch Robinson can provide us next year, just from what we've seen last year and the years prior, as well as the things I think Mitch Robinson can improve upon. So some of the things I think Mitch Robinson provide next season: elite offensive rebounding, where he was tied with Deandre Jordan for 5th in the league at 3.6 a game. Second chance production, putback play, something that we sorely missed once Mitch Robinson went down. Pick and roll prowess on offense, definitely another thing that we missed with Mitch Robinson's elite athleticism and jumping up in the air, be able to catch those high, sometimes errant passes and be able to finish at the rim. And obviously his help defense was sorely missed, even though Noneswell did a solid job covering for Mitch Robinson once he went down. Some of the things I think that Mitch Robinson can definitely improve upon: poor defensive rebounding, and I put a question mark because it may not be as bad as some people may think it is. Defensive discipline, obviously keeping his feet, court awareness, positioning on the court. It's definitely something that Mitch Robinson many times lacks. Functional strength, now obviously he's pulling the muscle, 30 pounds of muscle, but we've seen him struggle against more physical centers at the rim and in the paint. Average pick and roll defense, as good as he is on the pick and roll offense, he's not so good regarding the pick and roll defense. And maturity to reach his ceiling. Something that we talked about, all the cryptic messages, even though it may not be as bad as we're making it out to be. But again, we have to see that maturity for Mitch Robinson to work on the basics and master those of his game before moving on to trying to become God in the NBA. So before we get started, we got to talk about the injury that Mitch Robinson suffered earlier this season, where he damaged or fractured his foot. He suffered a Jones fracture injury, which is the worst of all the foot injuries, and in the worst, or one of the worst of the basketball injuries. There is some positive historical precedent to say that Mitch Robinson can come back 100%. There have been guys like Brook Lopez, Ben Simmons, as well as most notably Kevin Durant came back fairly 100% from that injury. So said before, Mitch Robinson missed the rest of the season with the Jones fracture injury, but he's expected to come back healthy. And during the recovery time, he added about 30 pounds of muscle, going from 240 to 275. So hopefully that helps him defend some of the more physical centers he struggled against last season. But Mitch Robinson does have somewhat of an injury history. He missed 30% of the possible games he could have played throughout his 3-year career. Mitch Robinson had a hand fracture in 2021. He had a groin injury in 2018, 2019. He also had concussion. He had the knee issues with Team USA. So Mitch Robinson definitely has some health issues. I'm not saying it's one we have to worry about it where it's these chronic injuries, but his body, it's lanky. And you're talking about now adding muscle plus the recovery. So will he be more timid? Will it affect him physically? Well, it's probably going to affect him physically, but mentally as well. Going to pay you $13 to $15 million a year or possibly more. Your health comes into question. Will it be nagging injuries that stop you from playing at least 80% of the games? Will we miss you in the playoffs? Will it be a season-ending injury or these little knick-knack injuries here and there? A lot of question marks, but we will see. So one of the positives is that Mitchell Robinson is one of the elite players regarding offensive rebounds, averaging 3.6 rebounds a game, which was good for 5th in the league with Andre Drummond. Now, regarding contested rebounds a game at 2.7, he was good for 4th in the league. And on offensive box outs, he was tied for 6th in the league. So even in his rawest form, Mitchell Robinson was still one of the best on the offensive boards. So just to provide some proper context regarding Mitchell Robinson's impact on the offensive boards, before the injury, the Knicks ranked 14th in putback points per miss and 11th in putback plays per miss. However, after the injury, the Knicks went on to rank 28th in putback points per miss and 29th in putback plays per miss. And for such an offense last season that was fairly putrid, the Knicks could have used each and every second chance opportunity they could have gotten, as well as production right at the rim for any errant shots. And the Knicks are still going to need that second chance production on Mitchell Robinson, given all the new talent on the team. Until proper cohesion and chemistry is established, we're going to need those second chance points. So let's also talk about Mitchell Robinson's ability in the pick and roll. Now, granted, last season, even after the injury, Mitchell Robinson is still ranked in the 90th percentile regarding offense in the pick and roll. Good for 1.373 points per possession. Mitch Robinson was among the elites because of his natural ability, be able to turn errant passes into finishes at the rim, the radius in the air, the ability, the leaping ability, the athleticism. And when you compare some other guys in the Knicks, guys like Julius Randle weren't so great in the pick and roll. Obviously, Julius Randle prefers to pick and pop. Didn't roll to the basket nearly as much as he did in the years prior. Guys like Nones are well ranked in the 50th percentile regarding the pick and roll. Obviously, his just butterfingers, brick hands. No offense to you, Nones are well. Just doesn't have the same catch radius in the air as a guy like Mitch Robinson, even though there's some spurts here and there. Taj Gibson's older, so it's just not the same. Obviously, Obi Toppin being a rookie. So we really had no other weapons who could be that proficient in the pick and roll as Mitch Robinson. This is a guy who still was very, or had showed a lack of discipline in certain regards. I'm going to get to the screen game real quick, but screening at many times wasn't very disciplined. Many times just kind of screening slips without actually sending a proper screen, allowing the defender to actually get back to the ball handler. Regarding his screen game, look at statistically, he only averaged about 2.8 screen assists, or the team averaged 2.8 screen assists off of Mitch Robinson's screens. Now, granted, the offense last season wasn't the best, even though we ran the pick and roll a lot. And you got guys like Alfred Payne. I mean, you had a lack of playmakers and scorers on the team, so part of it's a team issue thing. But when you look at some of the top players in the league, guys like Sabonis, guys like Rudy Gobert. Now, you can argue Gobert, the Jazz had a way better offense, but Sabonis, they were missing Brogdon, TJ Warren for a while. So their offense wasn't, I don't know exactly what the rankings were, but for a stretch, and they also have a poor bench too. But Sabonis and Gobert, I believe, average around at least more than 6 screen assists a game. So it's not necessarily the offenses per se, but it's also the screens themselves. Create that 4 and 5, that mismatch, that advantage for you to basically clear out a player, and then basically have a quick 4 and 5 for maybe a second or two, maybe a split second, where you could roll to the basketball, handle like a triple threat off of those screens. You have options off the wings or the opposite wings or the corner. So again, Mitch Robinson just be able to set better screens can open up our offense. Now you have more playmakers. You have Evan Fournier. You have Kemba Walker, who's going to need the screen game badly because, again, that knee issue. And Kemba Walker last season with the pick and roll was excellent, but isolation was bad. Wasn't attacking the rim as much. Free throw drawaways, I think it was like 22%. And this season, I understand he's going to have an offseason working that knee, but it just may not be the same. Evan Fournier guy who can play on and off the ball, but he's going to need that screen game as well too. RJ Barrett's going to need that screen game for him to become a better, better playmaker. And you also have guys like Alec Burks, Derrick Rose. IQ's going to need as well too. So Mitch Robinson being that option for us, where you don't have to depend on to try to force the norms well and to have a stagnant offense or a predictable offense, which is Julius Randle on the post and drawing the defense in. Having Mitch Robinson in that screen game and an offense that can play away from Julius Randle with Mitch as a screener in the pick and roll game would definitely open up our offense. As for Mitchell Robinson, that's basically it regarding his offensive repertoire. He doesn't have a hook shot, mid-range shot, doesn't have a drop step, a spin move, doesn't really have anything else to offer the Knicks offensively or in an expansive way. So that's basically about it. And I think that Tom Thib, when he made that comment last year about Mitch Robinson needing to focus on his weaknesses and then allowing the team to work on their strengths, also be able to shoot from the free throw line to convince the team that he should be shooting those shots. And again, shooting 49% from the free throw line like he did last season and not going to cut it, especially when that percentage has been going down the past few years. So Mitch Robinson has a lot to prove before he thinks he's the next Rasheed Wallace. There's something that Mitch Robinson is not doing in practice, or something that Mitch Robinson is not doing regarding his overall game, working these workouts by himself. Maybe he's not impressing Johnny Bryant to where Johnny Bryant could go up and tell Tom Thib, hey, let's try to expand the offense and do something with Mitch Robinson. So all those stupid little videos online, all those God, sham God, you playing with your friends, it's not working per se. Maybe there's a lack of seriousness, a lack of discipline, a lack of work ethic that Tom Thibodeau is seeing with regards to how you approach your offensive game that probably irks him and stopping him from allowing you to expand it within the game. So let's get to the defense. Now, Mitch Robinson is known for his help side weak defense. Obviously, all the blocks and all the protecting at the rim we've seen Mitch Robinson make over the years, especially his rookie year. We're setting all types of records. Mitch Robinson is probably one of the better help defenders in the league. He can cover a lot of space, even if he's if he's in the wrong position, let me say. But Mitch Robinson, regarding his post-up defense, is really poor. He ranked in the 8th percentile regarding post-up defense and gave up 65% at the rim. And this despite the fact that with shots less than 6 feet from the rim, his differential, defensive field goal percentage minus field goal percentage, was -4. So that means a lot of the plays where you see him defend is on that weak side, or if a ball handler is coming his way and he's defending, or his center, his assignment is driving to the rim. He's protecting at the rim. So Mitchell Robinson has a lot of work to do. You've seen it last season. See how many times he got beasted by guys like Andre Drummond. He got beasted by Andre Drummond the whole season. The only time he get beasted was that third game. That's because the Knicks sent help his way. You see him get beasted by smarter, more nimble big men such as Domantas Sabonis, catch him on fakes in that first, especially in that first game. Against the Pacers, Domantas Sabonis would drive to the basket off of handoffs, just was abusing Mitchell Robinson, getting him into foul trouble, having Mitchell Robinson jump in the air. And this is a place I thought you see Mitchell Robinson take some strides, but even against some of the elite guys, he struggled. Rudy Gobert in that Utah Jazz game struggled against his physicality, struggled against his size, struggled against Mitchell Robinson, against Rudy Gobert's position. Another thing too, he struggled against Drummond's positioning too. Embiid, that first Sixers game, Embiid just abused. He abused the whole team, but he just destroyed Mitch Robinson. So we're hoping that 30 pounds of muscle, plus added discipline, added court awareness, better footwork, better positioning, getting those centers out of position, i.e. Joel Embiid, Rudy Gobert, getting those guys out of position so they can establish against you. They're not getting these easy plays in a post against you or drawing fouls against you so easily. So hopefully the added muscle helps. Now I would say it's about Mitchell Robinson. He did show improvement regarding his personal fouls, and you saw better discipline overall compared to, say, his rookie season. Now, I thought the best Mitch Robinson was that half a season that you saw him there with Mike Miller, with Deandre Jordan traded to the team. Whatever Deandre Jordan was doing, it was working because Mitch Robinson was keeping his feet. I thought his defense improved drastically. And if we could get that Mitch Robinson from that 2019-2020 season, I think our defense would be a lot better off. Another possible concern regarding Mitchell Robinson's play that may connect to his lack of overall physicality against centers in the league is his lack of defensive rebounding. But there is a possible caveat to all of it. To Mitch's credit, he ended the season 11th in contested defensive rebounds per game. And this is after a season-ending injury against the Bucks. And Mitch Robinson was actually second in the league in the number of defensive box outs per game at 4.1. So Mitch's presence in the paint on the defensive rebounding end most likely opened up opportunities for guys like Randle and RJ, who fared fairly well in their positions regarding defensive rebounds. So regarding Mitchell Robinson and his impact in the pick and roll defense, we saw mixed results last season. Sometimes Mitchell Robinson looked really good holding the fort, playing drop coverage, be able to drape onto the ball handler, effectively hedge or double team at the right times. And sometimes we saw Mitchell Robinson, whether it be because of poor communication, like in that OKC game or the second Cavs game, poor positioning, bad footwork, bad reaction time, we saw Mitchell Robinson struggle. So what will Mitchell Robinson do this season when we have guys like Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker who are not Elfrid Payton and Reggie Bullock defensively? How will Mitchell Robinson cover for their lack of defensive prowess? So Mitchell Robinson against the pick and roll actually was not that great last season. It's fairly average. And if you actually look at it statistically for his whole career, he's been actually below average to average for the most part. So Mitchell Robinson, for all that freaky athleticism, still has a lot of issues whenever the screen game comes his way. He's going to have to step up, not just physically, regarding the weight and come back from the injury, but also mentally. Like I said, there are many times last season Mitchell Robinson was not communicating properly with the point guard out there. Now, granted, Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker as ball handlers are way better than Reggie Bullock and Elfrid Payton, but again, the lack of defense that they bring relative to Elfrid Payton and Reggie Bullock will definitely be a glaring issue. So Mitchell Robinson's going to have to step up big time, especially against these teams like the Hawks who are going to run the pick and roll at us religiously. And if Mitchell Robinson can't pick it up, he's going to get into foul trouble. He's going to be out of position. And it's going to be the same issue he's had before, where you have to take him out of games because he has 3 or 4 fouls by the second quarter, third quarter. And that will definitely compromise our defense. Now, what the hell is Mitchell Robinson's ceiling? Carmelo Anthony once said, Mitchell Robinson doesn't even know what his ceiling is. And despite all the James Harden God, sham God, workouts, dribbles, and all that stuff that I don't think is going to come to fruition, I think the 3 guys I think that Mitch Robinson should definitely emulate, and that's Rudy Gobert, DeAndre Jordan, and Clint Capella. With Rudy Gobert, I believe his fundamentals coming to the league were a little more refined on the defensive side, although Gobert didn't get as much exposure in his rookie year as Mitch Robinson did. Also, when he entered the league, Rudy Gobert was less decisive in screens, given that he would bail out or flash to the paint too late in the pick and roll game. However, by Gobert's 4th season, he became a physical beast in the paint and developed into one of the strongest screeners in the game. In his 4th year, he was tied for first in screen assists at 6.2 and first in points per game off of screens at 14.2. Mitch has never averaged more than 5.9 screen assists a game. Gobert also asserted himself as one of the best defensive centers in the league, winning Defensive Player of the Year 3 times and being a 5-time All-Defensive Team player. And you easily see why. He constantly does a great job of closing out on ball handlers if you switch onto them. And on the pick and roll, he does a great job of being able to play drop coverage and holding space, using his length to disrupt jump shots if need be, and wisely using his athleticism at the rim. If Mitch can emulate Gobert's screen game on both ends, with the added physicality at the rim and discipline, a Rudy Gobert ceiling may not be out of the cards for Mitchell Robinson. Now, the next comp that I think that Mitch Robinson should definitely try to emulate or learn from is Deandre Jordan. Now, Deandre Jordan was drafted in the second round by the LA Clippers, and he was seen as an athletic freak, a guy who could jump out the gym, but one who was prone to fouls, bad spacing, or bad court awareness on the floor on the defensive end, bad footwork, not knowing where you're supposed to be. And it wasn't until his fifth or sixth season with the Clippers, where I think it was his first, his fifth or sixth was his first under Doc Rivers, where he learned proper footwork, spatial awareness. You're supposed to be on the court at what time, and that was largely because Doc Rivers would overload the defense, and force those cross-court passes. And the thing that allowed Deandre Jordan to do was to reset back into his proper spots and made the game a little more easier, because then the ball handler would have the ball, beat his first man to the basket if he was able to, and then, or his resetting man to the basket. If he was able to, then he would see Deandre Jordan. That help defense came out from Deandre Jordan. Deandre Jordan, I believe, after his first year with Doc Rivers, where he averaged, I think, 3.2 fouls a game. After that year, he never averaged more than 3 fouls a game or 3.2 fouls a game in his career. And again, when he came to the Knicks with Mitchell Robinson seemed to learn a lot from him. Mitch Robinson's defense improved dramatically compared to what we saw that season, his rookie season. So Mitchell Robinson should definitely take a page out of DeAndre Jordan's book. The last comp for Mitchell Robinson to take from is Clint Capella, who took several years to develop into the center that he is today. And this is even after his 5-year, $90 million deal that he signed with the Rockets. Early in his career, Capella was always characterized as being physical at the rim and having solid instincts on the defensive end, but one who displayed low IQ on both sides of the floor, many times being caught out of position or trying to make plays out of rhythm of the off. But by his fourth year, Clint Capella was averaging a double-double, being that team's premier option in the pick-and-roll sets they ran, only averaging a usage rate of 19.4% and being one of the better rim protectors in the league. But he truly blossomed under Nate McMillan, where he ended the season 5th in the league in block percentage and became a dangerous help defender who provided excellent cover for the Hawks off of opposing team screen games. And this alongside averaging 15 points and 14 rebounds a game on 59% shooting, where he actually has a hook shot, he has a little drop step move he could take to the basket, and being a dangerous pick and roll option for Trae Young. Now for Mitchell Robinson, if you could take a piece from each of these centers I just mentioned, he could be one of the elite centers in the league. Better discipline, better footwork, better court awareness on both ends of the floor, improving in both the defensive and offensive aspects of the pick and roll. And despite the fact that he's still one of these so-called elite offensive players in the league regarding the pick and roll on offense, there's still a ways for him to go, especially with the screen game, like I mentioned with guys like Rudy Gobert. Let's get to what he's actually worth. Mitchell Robinson could easily get 13 to 15 million per this offseason. Look at guys like Robert Williams, who is not better than Mitch Robinson. I believe he averaged, 8 and 7 for the Celtics, 8.7 rebounds for the Celtics. Not better than Mitch Robinson. Kelly Olynyk just got paid 37 for 3 by the Pistons. You got Noel got a deal from the Knicks, 32 for 3. And you just got Jared Allen, just got 100 for 4 by the Cavaliers. Now, I think Jared Allen is better than Mitch Robinson. He might kill me for that, but watch their games. I think Jared Allen is a way more fundamentally sound player than Mitch Robinson. But what will Mitch Robinson get? Now, we can sit here and talk about, oh, Mitch Robinson does this and does that. But if you look at the free agent market for some of the centers for next season, cream of the crop will be Jonas Valanciunas. Will probably get paid if he at least puts up the production he did with the Grizzlies. If he could do that with the Pelicans. But what is Mitchell Robinson actually worth? Is he really worth 13 to 15 million? Who knows? It actually really doesn't matter because it's what the market dictates. Now, the thing I worry about with Mitchell Robinson is how incentivized, how motivated is he to reach a plateau regarding his career despite getting that money. Now, we know about the 6 agents and whatnot. We know about how those guys kind of manipulate, but we also know about his immaturity. Him going on social media and voicing, putting all these, I don't say put all, but putting cryptic messages here and there. Obviously, Tom Thibodeau put out to media. The guy has to learn the basic fundamentals of his actual game before we expand it. We have to see it from Mitch Robinson this year. Not necessarily to get paid, because he's going to get paid. But after you get paid, what's next for Mitch Robinson? And I hope he takes that to heart to say, if you want to be one of these elite guys in the league, you want to be up there in terms of the top centers in the league, it's up to you to elevate your game, to actually learn the fundamentals and properly execute them night in, night out. work on using your length and using your newly added muscle to actually play a proper defense on these elite centers in the league. Now, for me, do I think he'll reach a ceiling? That's a tough one. I am not sure, because I think Mitch Robinson is not necessarily that I don't think he's in the game for the money per se, but I think he just might be a little bit misguided as to what greatness is. When he's out there doing a gotcha guy, I'm not saying that's the only thing he does in his workouts, but when he's putting out online and thinking that's impressing anybody of any importance in the league regarding coaches, it doesn't. But what does is actually coming to Team USA when you're selected on time, making a good impression on the coaches, something allegedly he didn't do. Making an impression in practice where you can actually impress a Tom Thibodeau with your proper fundamentals, footwork, timing, understanding the game, not looking like Kevin Knox out there in games and being lost, looking like a chicken with your head cut off. That's the type of stuff that help elevate you, because it'll prove to Tom Thibodeau that you are actually working on the things that will make you a complete center. Now, regarding what I think he's going to actually average this year, I actually think he's going to average double-double this season. I think that he was actually on pace to average a double-double last season. I thought you saw better footwork or a better discipline from Mitch Robinson, keeping his feet on the floor, a lot more consistency than we've seen in years prior. I thought Mitch Robinson was showing some strides on the defensive end. I think this year, though, you're going to see the double-double, I believe. I still think he's going to be one of the better offensive players in the league. I still think that you're going to see the box out, something that people don't talk about as much, but it definitely shows his ability as well as discipline on the court, awareness, knowing where his assignments are, box him out, get him out to play. I will be interested to see how he uses that newly added muscle, how that's going to factor into him defending some of the elite centers in the league, especially some of the more physical ones. I do think that Mitchell Robinson will struggle in the pick and roll because, again, with guys like Elfrid Payton and Reggie Bullock out, that backcourt defense is definitely going to be a little bit more, or the starting backcourt defense is going to be compromised relative to last season. So Mitch Robinson is going to be tested a lot more. Now, it'll be up to Mitch Robinson to get that mental acuity up and understand how to play in the help defense, especially on the screen game side of things, when to actually play drop coverage, when to properly hedge, double hedge, use his length to block or disrupt passing lanes, when to get back into the center, how to properly defend the center on this patch, especially against teams like the Hawks who are going to exploit the pick and roll against it. I do think he's going to struggle there, but I think with everything else, you're going to see some improvements. I think he's going to be a little bit more fundamentally solid compared to last season. Will he reach his ceiling this season? How some of these other guys got paid? Again, I'm not saying he's incentive, that's his only incentive, his only motivation is to get paid. But I still haven't seen a level of mental maturity for Mitch Robinson to say that he's going to invest 1,000% into properly developing all those fundamentals. I have yet to see it. It's not on Instagram. I know people complain or talk about the Instagram stuff, and that does factor into things. Going out and voicing your opinions out to the useless social media world that, of course, I'm in as well, too, means absolutely nothing. But I got to see on the court. I'm not going to take away any credit from him, but I can't give him any credit on the maturity side until I see it on the court. But, guys, let me know what you think. Am I being too harsh on Mitch Robinson? The fact that I'm unsure if he's going to reach his actual ceiling? Do you think I didn't answer the question? I'm just saying I'm unsure about it. Please leave your comments down below. Make sure to like the video, hit subscribe, hit the dark notification bell if you haven't already, so you get each and every notification for each and every video. It's your boy Gimo Kiesuke, Legion of Knicks. Thank you for watching. Salute to everybody. God bless.